Welcome everyone to the Real Estate Experience. As always, super excited to jump on these. We're on each and every episode. I provide experience shares as an entrepreneur, investor in the industry to really show you the ins and outs, the successes, the trials and tribulations, to really give you the necessary tools to succeed in your journey, and also bring on other high achieving entrepreneurs and investors in the industry as well. So today we've got Ryan McKenna on the podcast. Welcome.
Hey, Sterling. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yes. So everyone, just a little bit in terms of context about Ryan himself is he is the founder and operator of the company McKenna Capital, in which he's invested well over 50 syndications and also businesses in itself. We talked offline. He's got some angel investments. More so, he loves the real estate industry. Valuation of those investments is over $1 billion. That is with a B. And in terms of the real estate side, over 11,000 units. And just one fact, fun fact is we went into is he's been skydiving over the Alps. So I really want to dig into that at a later point, because I know that was something that feeling really in the present moment and just stepping out of your comfort zone. I don't know if you're someone who's afraid of heights, but would want to go into that story at a later point. But could you give the audience your 5% that's ultimately shaped you to who you are at this moment in time?
Sure, Sterling. So growing up, grew up in an entrepreneurial family, very loving family, very supportive family. And at an early age, I always, knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I just didn't necessarily know, what industry I'd be in or fall into. And having, the support of my parents, I went on to play baseball in college at Arizona State. That was something that, I'd seen from my dad and his business. He had the time to coach me in every sport growing up. And so I feel like it was just great to be able to spend that time. And it allowed me to really kind of have that bond, with my parents, and ultimately led to me playing baseball, which was a dream of mine, a goal I set when I was 12 years old. And so I kind of, my mind was shaped of, I want to be able to do that and give back to my family someday and have that flexibility, that control that I saw. And so at a very early age, I just told myself, I thought I was going to go play baseball and maybe make it to the major leagues and then have some time, do all the investing after. But things didn't work out as planned, and I had a plan B. And that's really where real estate came into my life. And I actually was first introduced to the multifamily syndication business when I was in college at Arizona State. So a teammate of mine, his father was an apartment syndicator. So I got pretty good firsthand experience. And when baseball didn't work out, I had an avenue and a dream that I wanted to go chase. And so here we are today. I've syndicated a lot of deals. I've invested in a lot. I'm a big proponent of, passive investing in real estate syndications to live a lifestyle by design and to be able to take back some of your control and time freedom.
Yeah. And what position did you play in terms of for baseball?
I was an outfielder.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah. And so you mentioned about getting in the industry. You had a friend whose a father or relative actually was in the industry. So was that an ideal, and you saw their lifestyle and you said, okay, that's where I want to be? Or was it a book? What was that aha moment that got you to ultimately transition?
A lot of it brought back some good memories of, my dad and I when we were growing up. And my teammate's father, shared the similar experience of, like, he was an apartment syndicator. He could create his own schedule. He was able to wake up every morning and, sit down for breakfast with his kids. He didn't have to rush out the door. And so that kind of triggered a lot of, positive memories I had growing up. But then I was just so fascinated with, like, well, how do you buy a 200 or 300 unit apartment complex? I'm like, that costs a lot of money. And he started sharing with me what a syndication was, pooling together, many investors to purchase, large asset like that. And so I just really kind of struck it.
And Ryan, how old were you at this time where you were getting this education?
I was right around 21, 22 years old. So, I kind of feel like I've known about this syndication business for a long time, and I wish I had a lot more money, many years ago. But the next best time to start is now. But I did, get to experience and see a lot, and ultimately, ended up, participating in some deals along the way. But along the same time frame, and when I was in college, I came across Rich Dad Poor Dad, which, as everyone knows, it's kind of the Bible, so to speak, of real estate investing. And I just was glued, and I found my blueprint for the life I wanted to live and build, and I found a way to do it through real estate. And so, it took me a little bit of time, just because I guess maybe one of my myths was, you had to have money to start. And, I dabbled in single family before I got into multifamily, but, I really felt like, there was an avenue for me to get there. And I knew what I wanted. It was just a matter of how am I going to go out and get it. And so, I kind of just leveraged, some of the relationships. And to start off my passive investing experience, I actually did my first 5 deals with my teammate's father and his syndication business. So I kind of just went right in and said, hey, I'm going to learn the business, and I'm going to do it by investing. And then from there, just expanded.
Yeah. And I want to go into, you mentioned the Rich Dad Poor Dad, and you mentioned one limiting belief that you had is, how did you have any other ones? And then how did you end up overcoming that? Because I feel most people have that belief that, okay, a 200, 300 unit apartment complex, I don't have the cash to be able to do that. Well, let me just go get a single family, or maybe even the single. So how did you overcome those limiting beliefs? And is there any ones you care to share?
Sure. Yeah. I felt like, you had to have all this money, all this experience before you could even get started. And, where I maybe held out for too long is that, I'm a type of person that likes to over prepare. So I probably read every real estate investing book out there, and, felt so knowledgeable, and just like waiting for that right opportunity to come along. And then I realized, you got to go out and create that opportunity. You got to take action. You're going to get nowhere if you're the smartest person out there, but you never, act upon it, or you never do anything about it. And so for me, it was just kind of at some point in my life where I started to do well in the business world. I said, I got to get into real estate. It's been something that's been on my mind. I'm super passionate about it. And eventually you just got to, make that leap. And so, I did it as a passive investor because I wanted to learn along the way. I didn't have, all the answers, but I felt like, I was ready, and it just made sense. And so I started to then unravel how these deals were put together, and just how the industry operated. And then I started to kind of get a sense for where I would fit in at it. And I had a lot of relationships up until this point, being in the business world for 15, 20 years. And I just saw the power of being able to tap into that. And, when you had a really good opportunity to be able to leverage that with people that know, like, and trust you. And so the wheel started spinning. And as I did more and more investing, I felt like, I'm ready to start, making the leap and partnering, with others and putting deals together. So that's really kind of, how I transitioned into the syndication business.
Got it. And there's quite a bit to unpack there. And of course, those of you want to go back and listen to that, and he dropped some absolute bombs and golden nuggets. Is the first one you talked about creating a opportunity. So that was one key. And then one thing that I've learned from having others such as yourself that are absolutely crushing it in the industry and doing well for themselves, and always, of course, always wanting to push even more, that is taking action. And from that is a way to avoid the analysis paralysis. One term that I've heard thrown out there is the YouTube university. So just by taking action, because one question I have for you is, do you feel that many of the things, once you actually got in there, you started doing passive investing, and then you actually got into the field yourself, no amount of reading would have set you up for some of the things that you actually encounter? It's like, oh, there's no way I would have read about that in the book.
Yeah, I believe you're going to learn along the way, but you want to take risks, but they got to be calculated. And I think if you surround yourself with good people who have experience, who have maybe been through something that you're wanting to go through, and they can share, what worked for them, what didn't. I mean, that's going to, shorten that learning curve. And so I just tried to surround myself with really good people. And even though I didn't have all the answers, part of this was just, you got to get involved, you take action. And I've learned so much along the way, and you learn by, making mistakes, and you learn not to repeat them. And I feel like, had I never taken that leap or tried, I've been sitting on the sidelines wondering, and probably be frustrated with myself and have regret that I didn't try sooner or try harder. And so, yeah, sometimes you just gotta take action.
Yeah, and they mentioned that the older people, as they're about to pass on along, or the people that are in the nursing homes, is one of the number one things. They don't talk about what they did do. They talk about all the things they didn't do, and they regrets, and now they're a little bit further along. They're not able to do those things. So love that you mentioned about the regret. And it's just taking action. And someone, it's either Jim Rohn or Zig Ziglar that says, you're committed enough. If you're committed enough, you'll find a way. If not, you will find a excuse. I'm a firm believer in that, because that is the bottom line on that.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right.
And so when you made that shift from the passive investing to the syndications, what did that first deal look like for you?
So it was definitely, partnering with a lead sponsor, and, doing my due diligence on that sponsor, not only on their track record, but getting to know them, and, learning about, what their philosophy is like, what their communication style is, the diligence, everything that goes into a partnership. It was something that was more about that than the actual deal, because I felt like, from my perspective, you look at a lot of different deals, all the numbers start to look the same. And what I believe is most important is the people behind the numbers. And so I spent a lot of time getting to know this particular operator. And, from there I felt, comfortable, had confidence. So when I was talking with investors, that, I believed in the deal, believed in the opportunity, I believed in the partnership. And I think people can sense that and feel that. And so that's really kind of, it starts with that. And then from there, we were able to build off of it. So I was nervous, though, just like any, starting out with a deal. But, I had talked to people in my network prior to our first opportunity, just letting them know, hey, this is what I do as a passive investor. This is what's worked for me. I could share my experiences. So it wasn't as daunting as like, all right, like I'm just starting from nowhere. I mean, I had experience in 12 other deals as a limited partner, and I kind of knew what to expect, in some sense. But I also, knew that not everything goes as planned, and there's going to be some bumps along the way, but this is a long-term investment. It's typically a 5-year hold, and you're going to work out, some of the rough patches early on. So you just, kind of prepared for that. So you're not taken off guard when something doesn't go as planned. You kind of anticipated that, or, so I learned about, under-promising and over-delivering, and how to be conservative when you look at opportunities. And
Ryan,
just
one quick thing. So on that deal, was it you came in as a co-GP on that deal, or you were the main GP and someone came and?
No, I was a co-GP. So
okay,
that was another reason I had confidence, because I was partnering with someone that had a pretty extensive track record. This wasn't their first rodeo, and I could, bring value to that opportunity and to my investors through that partnership. And so that really, helped me kind of launch the first opportunity, with many more to come after.
And that's what I want to go into as well as, and that's great. That's one, you took the passive investing and then you shifted as another way to mitigate your risk, partner with someone as a co-GP, and now you can use even more of that as your track record. Is what was the value exchange in terms of that relationship, and how did you determine that, okay, this is this person's strengths, this is where I can plug myself in on the weaknesses, or to be of value? Because I feel that's where some people end up getting stuck. How can I create value for that person who's even further along than I am?
Yeah, no, and there's a lot of different ways that you can create value, from, finding the deal, to helping with the due diligence, to the underwriting, to working with investors, to just ongoing, asset management. So there's, operators out there that are looking for partners to help them. And so I try to come in and, use, all the experiences I had, and obviously being someone who's, very, very eager and wanting to learn and helpful. And I think if you can open yourself up, that you're going to make yourself attractive to people that, that need help, or that maybe they can't do, be all things to all people. And, you just got to look at your skill sets, what you're really good at and how you can leverage that, because every partnership, it takes a team to put these deals together, especially some of the larger ones. And so I think if you can find out, what you're good at, what you're passionate about, and how you could add value, that's a conversation starter. And then from there, you kind of go through that, and there's, a lot of back and forth, a lot of vetting, and, eventually you'll find, a good fit. And, and then from there, the first deal is always the hardest, and, you're kind of learning and trying to, see if this is going to, take shape. And then from there, you kind of keep, working on building off of that and making things better. But yeah, it comes down to, I think, relationships, number one, and then number two, how can you, bring value to that deal?
Yeah. And so it doesn't have to be this one or another one that you worked on. What is one failure that you encountered that later set you up for success?
So let's see. I think one failure would be, not probably anticipating that it was going to take a little bit longer to turn the property around than we thought. You do, like I mentioned earlier, you try to be conservative. You try to, put some time horizons out there for, what this value add, project is going to look like. But sometimes you just encounter things that set you back, and you got to look at this as like, all right, maybe the first 2 years are going to be rough, but this is a 5-year hold. We got 3 more years. And so, yeah, you get behind the 8 ball, and maybe you just didn't anticipate a couple things from standpoint of, we had a fire at one place where, it was covered by insurance, but, you got, setbacks with occupancy and tenants and just, dealing with that. But there's a lot of little things that can come up, but, you want to have some cushions along the way. And I think that just setting expectations with investors too was probably, a failure from the standpoint of, not every deal is going to go as planned. And, the goal is to try to exceed the projections, but, you invest in enough deals, you're going to have a few that, get behind. And that doesn't mean it's a bad deal or that the result is not going to be bad. But in this moment in time, yeah, we're behind schedule, and we're doing everything we can to try to get, back on track. And so I think having kind of more of a realistic approach to that up front than just assuming that, hey, we're so conservative that no matter what happens, we're still going to be fine. I mean, I think that that's something I learned early on in a few deals, is that, even if you are very, very conservative, there are things that, you just don't go as planned, and you just adjust.
Or a hurricane could happen.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Or a pandemic. I mean, let's say one of those happened. No one saw what I believe the financial term is a black swan. That's something that's completely unknown, no matter how conservative. Who knew that they'd be shutting down evictions? That's something that.
Yeah, I mean, no one was underwriting a pandemic a year ago, so it's things like that. And, and we're dealing with it right now. And I wouldn't say that this is necessarily a failure, because, you couldn't plan for this, but we're learning and we're doing well. And again, this probably is not going to be the last, crazy black swan event we'll deal with in our lives. And so I think, again, if you take that long-term approach and take, one day at a time, and the nice thing about real estate compared to just say the stock market is that, there isn't really that knee-jerk reaction of like, oh my God, we got to get out of this, or there's this emotional reaction. It's like, look, it's a slower process, and it's typically, measured in quarters. And so, I mean, it's, I think you get rewarded for the long-term effort of sticking into the deal and just kind of grinding it out, and, making some, adjustments along the way. And so,
I mean, that's entrepreneurship in itself, is be willing the market and to make adjustments based upon what the market tells you to do. If not, you'll end up like, what is it? Blockbuster.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. That's a crazy story right there.
So I see that on your website, you're the face in terms of being on it. So how do you market your company and bring on investors? Is it Ryan McKenna is the face, and you're doing the content, or do you market through your company?
Yeah. So my business started as just friends and family and my network. And I was in the insurance business for a while, and always had some side hustles along the way, and just was always out connecting with people that I had shared similar interests with. So when I first launched McKenna Capital, I reached out to everyone in my network, and it was not like an approach where, hey, you got to invest. It was like, hey, I'm really passionate about an opportunity here, and I thought highly enough of you that I just want to share it, because I'm just hoping that if you came across a great opportunity or great idea, you would think highly of me, that you would want to sit down and share it and have me listen to it. So I took that approach, and I literally started with, I made a list of 250 potential investors, people in my network, and I sat down, had coffee calls with all of them, and from there, 6 months later, we had our first deal. So I kind of planted the seed, so to speak, and really kind of wanted investors to know what I was doing, because I was doing this while I was working full time. So people kind of knew me as like, oh, you're in the insurance business, but you also invest in real estate. And so I got to share that. So when we had our first deal, it wasn't like, oh, what are you doing now, Ryan? It was just like, oh, wow. Like they were waiting for it. They were excited. And then, from there, I did, start writing blogs. I started getting on podcasts. I built my website. I just tried to, create awareness for what we were doing and create awareness for the industry. I mean, I think there's, still so many people out there. I say 99% of the population still doesn't even know about real estate syndications. And every opportunity I get to share with others about, what we do, it's just, I just get excited, because I think it's something that, most people will benefit from if they are looking to diversify, their portfolio, and people just don't talk about it as much. And you got Wall Street and just kind of what everyone knows. And so part of this was, just for 18 months, all I did was network and just kind of hustle out there and just having meetings, having coffees. And then one thing that started to happen, which
really, before you go into that, Ryan, I really want to premise on some things you really hit home. Is one, when you reached out to your power base, is your friends and family, because these are individuals that already trust you. You started with that, groove that, and then you started to expand outside of that. Because that's one thing I always mention to people, is starting with people you already do know as an investors. And then also you mentioned right from the get-go, not going in and say, hey, I would love to have you invest with me, or I've got these upcoming opportunities. You looked at it as more of, hey, forming a relationship with the person on the other end, versus what I like to say is going in for the right hook. Hey, invest with me. So that's one thing I like that you allude to. And for those of you who are not, hopefully are familiar with how to build a relationship with another human being, and if not, there's a good book that is How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. So that would be a good starting point as a way to overcome that, in case you're introvert. What were you mentioning, Ryan?
No, I was going to say that what I'm experiencing now is really cool, is that, my business is growing through referrals and just happy investors and just people sharing, these types of opportunities with others as far as, their experience. And that part is really cool. I think in any business, just to see that momentum where you put in so much time and effort to grow this. And, it might look like overnight success, but it's not. It's 15 to 20 years, in the making of relationships, and then 18 months of just kind of pounding the pavement. And then, you get this snowball, and it starts rolling and growing. And then now it's completely inbound versus outbound. And it's a pretty cool place to be. And I spend most of my days just talking with investors. And so I get to, hear a lot of, what their interests are. I get to, learn from others and just have a conversation about something I'm super passionate about. So it's a fun place to be, but it took a lot of time and effort. And, again, I had to do some things that, felt uncomfortable at times from, as an entrepreneur building your business. But, I go back to, if I don't try it, you just never know. And a good quote that I tend to live by is by Wayne Gretzky. It's you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. And it's kind of been my MO. And, I'd rather try something. If I fail, I'll fail fast and move on to something else. But I would have regret later on in life. Yes. I did not go out.
I remember that one moment.
Yeah. So I'm going to do all I can while I can with the people that I care most about. And that's just my personality. It's just something that's kind of worked for me, throughout my life. And I'm someone that just, I like to try new things, like to take action and building and creating, businesses, helping others. I mean, that's something that's very fulfilling to me.
Yeah. And so, Ron, is where we're currently at in the pandemic, how do you feel things will shake out in the multifamily space in terms of, let's say, the larger complexes over 150, 200? Do you feel there's going to be a pullback, a complete collapse in terms of, what is it, 60, 70 cents on a dollar? Where do you feel if you had a crystal ball in the next 8 to 12 months?
Yeah, if I had a crystal ball, obviously this is just my opinion here.
I'm holding you to
But
it.
I'm not seeing anything right now that is concerning enough that I would not feel bullish on multifamily when compared to other investment opportunities out there. I still see the numbers. I mean, it all comes down to, I think, where you invest as well. We're focused mainly in what I would call your tax-friendly warm weather states where a lot of people and businesses are moving to. So it's, Texas, Florida, the Carolinas, Arizona, Colorado. So I see a much brighter future there. Even if we do have, another pullback, I see those markets, bouncing back much faster. And so, I look at, hey, does it make sense to sit on the sidelines? I mean, that's a personal preference, but what I believe in is I like to have my money in motion. I like to have it constantly growing. So, I look at like, well, if, what benefit am I going to get if my money is in a bank account waiting for the perfect opportunity and I have to wait 3 more years when I could have made it probably a pretty nice return on that money. Maybe I don't hit a home run, but I'm not looking to do home runs. I'm looking to have consistent, reliable returns. And I just feel like, multifamily, it's a long-term, horizon, it's a long-term game. And I still look at just the numbers of, what we're going to need from a multifamily perspective. And I feel like we can't build fast enough to catch up to, the ultimate numbers 5-10 years down the road. So I still think we're going to be fine. I think we're going to come out of this as, an asset class that's very desirable. And part of the attraction to investing in multifamily in the first place was it weathers the storm fairly well. And I think we're seeing that so far with the coronavirus and just, we're still, we have, the rent eviction moratorium going on, but, we're still, mid to high 90s rent collection across our portfolio. And, that's a, good sign given the times. And I just think we're going to see more capital pour into multifamily when you got people that maybe are losing their shirt in office or retail or hospitality.
Or
And I imagine there's going to be some great opportunities coming in those sectors down the road. But I think today you've got, multifamily real estate in the U.S., in my opinion, is a pretty safe long-term investment if you're investing with the right partners and you've got a good solid business plan and a good growing market.
Got it. Okay, understood on that, Ryan. So we're going to move to our rapid fire sharing round. First question is, what is, in terms of one common myth you hear in the syndication space that you can debunk?
So I guess I would say in real estate, a common myth I hear is that you got to be active. You got to, deal with tenants. You got to deal with toilets. It's kind of prevents people probably from going into real estate because they don't want to deal with that. And I think, there's a myth that like you can't be passive in real estate. And so I think syndications are a perfect example of a way to be passive. I mean, I did it myself, investing passively. And I think you can invest passively to achieve financial freedom, just like people do when they acquire X amount of homes and they deal with that rental. You can do it in the syndication business. You can invest in 10, 15, 20 deals, and you just back into the cash flow off the deal. And there's your, your passive income stream that could help you cover those expenses. So I'd like to debunk the myth that you have to be, actively involved in real estate to really participate and do well and have that lifestyle that you want.
Nice. And so what is one gift that was the most impactful to you that's been less than $100?
Oh, man. Let's see. I'd have to say a recent one would, and this is COVID related, foot massager I got. And it kind of gets the dog days of this virus, working from home. And it's just a little pleasant, start to the day where I can kind of loosen up, a little stress-free start. That's maybe a recent gift that is one that it was kind of unexpected, but definitely a much needed massage.
All right, and the last but not least is, why do you believe we're here on Earth, Ryan?
So I'd say, just we're here to learn and grow, and ultimately to share our experiences, our wisdom with others, to help them, become the best version of themselves. And I think if we do that and help others, we'll all have success and fulfillment, which I think at the end of the day, what's success without, feeling good about it, having fulfillment, and being able to do it with others. So I think as a species out there, the more we can collaborate, work together, share, our knowledge and experiences, the better we're going to make the world, and then the happier we're going to be.
Got it. Well, thanks so much for being on the podcast, Ron, and dropping those absolute bombs and golden nuggets. And next steps, everyone, those of you on the YouTube, hit that notification bell and subscribe button. And on other platforms, such as iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, leave that rating. It would really mean the world. Thanks so much. Any quote you would love to leave everyone with, Ryan?
There's I threw out the Wayne Gretzky one. Another one I like is by Napoleon Hill. Whatever the mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve. And that's something that I've lived by as well. And when I think you put that positivity in your mind, you can be unstoppable. And when you get knocked down, you'll get right back up, because you got a bigger why that you're chasing. And I think that's important to have that mindset.
Awesome. Thanks so much for being on the podcast, Ryan.
Thank you, Sterling. Appreciate you having me on here.
All right. Thanks for listening to The Real Estate Experience. If this has brought you any value, please subscribe and leave a 5-star rating. It would mean the world to me. Now go out there and crush it.